I am afraid for the Philadelphia 76ers, and that's because they're in a really tough spot heading into this offseason. It really seems like James Harden is ready to decline his player option and secure a long-term deal on another team. Granted, there's still a chance he returns to Philly. I think 100% he declines the player option. There is a chance he comes back on a long-term deal, as that's what he's looking for this offseason, a long-term deal. However, I think more than likely he ends up in Houston. It really seems like he wants to go back. It really seems like Houston is willing to finally spend big with Ime Udoka down there. It seems like they're finally ready to take the rebuild seriously, and I think bringing back Harden is a good first step to helping out these young guys and, making this team relevant again. And then that just leaves Philly with only two real bright spots and assets on the team, and that's Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, right? They have Tobias Harris, but he's on that huge $40 million max contract. Nobody wants that, right? He's shown time and time again he's nothing more than a high-level 3-and-D wing. I don't trust him out there to be consistent third option on a night-to-night basis. To be fair, he did outperform James Harden and Joel Embiid in Game 7 versus the Boston Celtics. I think that just shows more of how badly Embiid and Harden played and less of how good Tobias Harris is. Because to be frank, he's not spectacular, right? And you're paying him a max contract to be a high-level role player at this point. He's not going to get any better. He's just going to decline. And when you're paying a max contract to what was once a borderline all-star player and is now declining towards just a high-level role player, it's a bit concerning, And it's a hard contract to move off of. They're also giving PJ Tucker, very big deal, and he showed the last 2 seasons he's shown big signs of regression, and giving him the 3-year $30 million deal is very scary for Philadelphia's cap. They just don't have a lot of cap to work with, even if there's a departure of James Harden. They don't have much cap to work with. They also have to extend Tyrese Maxey, as he has, 1 more year left on his contract? That's another scary thing coming up that the Philadelphia 76ers have to account for. So let's take a look at Philadelphia's cap space. Basically, their potential cap space, at best, is $11 million going into next season, unless they make some trades like trading PJ Tucker or trading Tobias Harris, which I think they have to do. Honestly, I think they have to do both, right? I think you have to trade both PJ Tucker and Tobias Harris. I think the only way this team gets back to a championship level team is retooling around Embiid. You can't trade Embiid. He's in the prime of his career. The chances of you getting a top 5 player in their prime to build around, the chances of that happening are slim, right? It's going to be a while before they're in this position, so I think you have to take advantage of that. The issue is they don't have the assets really to take advantage of that. You have to trade Tobias Harris. You have to trade PJ Tucker. You have no money. That's a big concern. So the first thing I would do is maybe the Brooklyn Nets look like they might be heading towards a rebuild, but there's also other reports that they're still trying to contend and make, heavy noise in the playoffs. If they go the rebuild route, this is a trade that could potentially work surrounding PJ Tucker, some other young guys thrown in the mix, and a pick for Spencer Dinwiddie, because I do think they need a facilitator, someone like James Harden, who can also get buckets when needed. Hopefully Spencer Dinwiddie can do it at a more consistent rate. Obviously, when they're at their best, Harden is better, but Spencer will be just as good for the offense in a way because of his consistency, and he's also a great facilitator, so that'll definitely help their chances. However, obviously you'd much rather have Harden. I'd much rather have James Harden than Spencer Dinwiddie, but this is the best they can do, right? Because when you look at it, because there's not many stars or superstars available for trade this upcoming season, you need a lot of floor spacers around Embiid because he's not good at handling double teams. We saw that pretty clearly in the Celtics series. He can't handle double teams well, so you need to space the floor out and have real 3-point threats at all 4 other positions in order to space these defenders farther apart, in order to make it harder to set up a double team. So to do that, you need shooters on every single part of the 3-point line, and just let Embiid have one-on-ones in the post. Guys that could be available, DeMar DeRozan, he doesn't space the floor. You have Bradley Beal, who's I think, honestly, a little bit of an overrated 3-point shooter. His percentages aren't anything spectacular. He's an average 3-point shooter, and I do think if he's available, they should try to trade for him. But that's the issue. I don't see I don't see Washington moving on from him. It seems like they're really trying to build around this core of Porzingis and Bradley Beal, which is insanely stupid, but that's what they want to do, so that's what they're going to do. Damian Lillard, I've had enough of Damian Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers. If he's available, go for him. I don't think he's going to be available. I think Damian Lillard stays in Portland. So that really leaves you with like no real superstars or stars that you could trade for this offseason. So the trade market is already at its lowest it's ever been, besides like the Spencer Dinwiddie trade like I showed. And then we look at the free agency markets. You have Kyrie Irving, who is way out of your pay grade, and it looks like the Mavericks will re-sign him. Chris Middleton may opt out of his player option. I think it wouldn't be a terrible signing. I don't know if they have the money for that. Maybe if they move off of the PJ Tucker and Tobias Harris deal. But realistically, Chris Middleton is just Tobias Harris, right? Maybe some people might think he's a little better. Some people might think he's a little worse. I think he's a little bit better. But still, it's not that much of an upgrade over Tobias Harris. You have Russell Westbrook, which is probably not a good fit next to Embiid in the playoffs. That might be a pretty exciting duo to watch in the regular season. But when you face a team like the Celtics again in the playoffs, I don't think that'll end well. You also have Porzingis. He's got a player option. It really seems like Washington is going to extend him, so I doubt that happens. Other than that, you have D'Angelo Russell. Maybe you go for him. I don't think, again, you have the money for that. And you could also just trade for Spencer Dinwiddie, for example. And if Spencer Dinwiddie doesn't work out in Philly, he only has 1 year left on his contract, so you just let him walk in free agency, right? You're not stuck paying him for the next couple of years like you would be with D'Angelo Russell, because D'Angelo Russell has had his issues. Then, other than that, you have Fred VanVleet, who's going to want a huge deal that the Sixers just can't give that out. So with all that being said, where does this leave Philly? They don't have much. I don't even think they have a first-round pick this year. And I really think, I think what they do is do a Spencer Dinwiddie type trade, get Spencer Dinwiddie, maybe trade Tobias Harris for a couple picks, see what you can get in the draft, build around a core of a young player, Embiid, Spencer Dinwiddie, just for this upcoming season. And if it doesn't work out, if you don't like any of what you see, then you go into next offseason, and that's when you really look for retooling this to be a contender. Because this offseason, you're not going to turn back into a contender. If you lose James Harden this offseason, you're not going to be a contender, right? If you look at 2024, there are some more notable free agents. You have Klay Thompson, you have Pascal Siakam, DeMar DeRozan. I don't know if Philly would go for that. I wouldn't if I'm Philly. Jaylen Brown, that would be a very interesting duo with Embiid. You have Domantas Sabonis, doubt they would do that, but you have like DeJounte Murray. It's a very good free agency class, and I think Philly could make some noise then. I just realized I forgot to mention also Tyrese Maxey. Philly is also depending on Tyrese Maxey getting even better. You give him an extension, and you gotta pray he just becomes an all-star, all-NBA caliber player. I think he's probably at basically that all-star level right now, but you need him to be an all-NBA caliber player, because right now at best he's the third option, and you need a second option. And they don't have that. Maybe if James Harden comes back, but it really seems like he won't come back. So with that being said, I would just get rid of PJ Tucker. At least run it back with Spencer Dinwiddie in the mix. Maybe keep Tobias Harris, maybe trade him for some defensive 3-and-D role players and a pick, something like that. I don't know what you're gonna get. I don't know where his value would be. I think he's a very solid player and he can be a fourth or third option on some teams. However, his contract is a lot more valuable than he actually is worth. And then you also have Tyrese Maxey, and you just gotta pray he develops further into like a borderline all-NBA player. And then after you run through a season with that, keep the players you like, you trade some assets you have, and you look at that 2024 free agency class, because this 2023 free agency class is nothing special, and you're not going to turn yourselves back into a contender. And that sucks for Philly fans to hear, but to be honest, Philly at best in 2023, you will be at best a 5 seed. I don't see you making it past the second round again. You might not even make it to the second round. There's a chance you don't even make the playoffs. I think that's a stretch though. With Joel Embiid, it's pretty tough to miss the playoffs unless he gets injured, of course. But yeah, the future is not as bright. It's not as bright as it was 4 years ago. You had the duo of young Ben Simmons and Embiid. It's a lot less bright, and I think Philly and the front office should be scared, and I think they need to retool around Embiid and just start from scratch practically, except keeping Embiid, seeing what you have in Tyrese Maxey. And yeah, that's it for this video.